Hi, want to learn how to morph like this? I use a mix of vector morphing and tweening. Vector morphing is when you mask out shape or solid layers and keyframe the masks. Tweening is used more often in the editing community. It means to cut out pieces of art and move them individually. Before we start, I have a tip for those who use Macs. You can easily mask out pictures by opening them up and using these tools. Drag your mouse and then use backspace to erase anything that you don't want. First things first, we need a good base, so start by bringing in both of your arts. I already labeled them as picture 1 and 2. Line up the faces as best as you can. You want to essentially make them sort of the same size. Now add in a solid layer. Let's start with the general face shape. Make sure only your first picture is visible, but that you're selected on the solid layer. This is so you can mask the solid layer while following the picture shape. Now that that's done, click on M to open up mask properties. Add in a mask path. Place your second keyframe as well. You can now hide the first picture and unhide the second. Now move the mask points that we already made to follow the shape of the same feature but in the second picture, which in this case is the face. Something I've learned is when you're doing this for the face, it's important to not move the points too much on the y-axis. You can move it on the x-axis as much as you want, but if you move it too much on the y-axis, it will look weird. I am now going to do the same thing with the outline of the face. Add in another solid layer and use the fill tool to change the color. You can now repeat the steps that we just did. While that's going on, I want to explain when to use vector morph versus tweening. Personally, I use vector morph for features that don't have much detail, so think of, well in this case, the face shape. Things that have more detail such as the hair, the eyes, or accessories will still use regular tweening. Alright, now notice how I'm making more than one mask on the same layer? This is because the outlines are all the same color and they're all going to be in the same layer order, so I don't really feel the need to add in a new solid layer. This is what I have so far, and as you can see, it's beginning to take shape. Pause. You've seen me vector morph twice in this video so far. It's time for a pop quiz to recall the steps. The first step was adding a solid layer, and then the second step was using the fill effect to color it. This third step was to mask the solid using one feature from picture 1 as the reference, and then adding in 2 mask path keyframes. And lastly, masking the same feature except this time from the second picture and on the second keyframe. Great, now let's keep going. Let's move on to the facial features. I'm going to start with the nose. As I said before, I use vector morphing mostly for less detailed features. The nose is a good example as it's essentially made up of 4 lines in this art. Moving on to the details for the nose, we will begin to do regular tweening here. I mask out the detail. Make sure your anchor points for the details are centered. And then open up position, scale, and rotation. I add in the first keyframes, then move to add the second keyframes. In the second keyframes, I'll make the details match up with its position in the second picture. Unlinking the scales is pretty important for this part, but once you're done, make sure to link the scales back so graphing won't be a pain later. Moving on to the eyelids, personally I don't like doing a blink when there's a face turn, so I won't be doing that in this video, but since the eyelid is quite detailed, I will once again duplicate the original picture and mask it out. Here, instead of only using position, scale, and rotation, I'm also implementing puppet pins. This is because the eyelids in the first picture are arched, whereas in the second picture they're more downturned. To be able to bend the lid, we'll have to use puppet pin tools. Next, for the eyes, I was debating whether to use the ones from picture 1 or 2, but I decided on picture 1 as it had more detail. Once again, as it's a detailed feature, I will not be masking solid layers for this. Onto the lower eyelids, since only the right one is properly visible, I'll just mask that one and mirror it to the left by opening up scale, unlinking them, and adding a minus to the X value. For now, I'll just hide the left eyelid and focus on the right. For the left eyelid's movement, I ended up keyframing it so the X value would go from 0 to the original. This is what we have so far, and I would say it's beginning to take shape. For the mouth, since it changes shape drastically, I'll just use a solid layer. After masking out the general shape and the mouth hole, click M and change the second mask from add to subtract. Now I'm just doing more details for the face. There is something that I do a lot, which is I mask out one feature and just mirror it to save time. Okay, now for the hair. I mask only one hair clump at a time. Let's use puppet pins to make the hair sway. Add in 3 puppet pins and then click on U to open up all keyframes. Move 20 frames forward and then move the 2 bottom puppet pins a bit towards one direction. Grab the keyframes for the lowest puppet pins and drag them 10 frames to the right. Now hold Alt or Option on your keyboard and click the stopwatch. Type loop out ping pong as you see on the screen. Add in position, rotation, and scale keyframes. Make sure the scales are unlinked. However, I decided that the hair still wasn't thin enough compared to the second picture, so I turned off puppet pins for a bit and added mask path. At the second keyframe, I thinned the hair using these mask path keyframes. Once you're done, make sure to turn the puppet pins back on. Now I basically repeat that step for all the other hair clumps. This is post-editing video, and I hope that this video is helpful in any way, shape, or form. I've tried making this video 3 separate times, and only this one made it out the draft, so I really hope that the explanations even make sense. Now let's move on to the top of the head. I maxed it out and then redrew a bit of it using the paint tool. Then I once again just move it using position, scale, and rotation to match its place in the second picture. I decided she looks a bit bald, so I gave her an additional hairline using a solid layer. Now I'm just moving on to the details. For the ears, I just duplicated and mirrored it. After moving it to where it's meant to be, I brought the layers down to below the face layers so they'd be in the proper layer order. For the necklace, I made it sway with the same exact way I did the hair. For the shirt, I know I said that for anything pretty detailed, I don't use solid layers. The issue here is that there is a drastic change in shape from a V-neck tank top to a regular t-shirt. Because of that, I decided to just use a solid layer and keyframe the mask pass. We'll worry about the texture later. To make it change colors, you add the gradient ramp effect. If your shirt doesn't have a gradient, feel free to make both colors the same. Now we can keyframe the effect's opacity. The reason why we use gradient ramp and not another fill effect is because look what happens when I keyframe the fill effect's opacity. The shirt basically disappears. For the texture, I'm using this picture. After composing it, I copy and pasted the mask path from the solid layer onto it, and changed the blending mode to soft light. I'm now adding in some shirt wrinkles for detail using shape masks and then adding mask path keyframes to that. After masking and keyframing the arms, we can finally move on to the last step, which is graphing. Select all the keyframes that don't include puppet pin swaying, so in this case it was the hair strands and necklace, then easy ease them using F9. Open up the graph editor and adjust to your liking. After all that work, here's our end result.